Hey ladies, this is Lesley Tavernier once again. I am here with my dark masculine man. I am a dark feminine love coach for women who are in love with a dark masculine man and who want to be fully empowered as a sorceress. And I know I said I was only going to do one episode per month, but there's so many amazing ideas flooding through my mind. And so I'm sharing with you a third episode for October 2024. So I guarantee you that we will do at least one episode a month, minimum one, but we'll probably do more because I have lots of ideas. And so we're going to continue on in the same vein as some of the previous topics we touched on. We are going to talk about the topic of you as a woman, as a wife, as a girlfriend. You just caught your boyfriend or husband. He cheated on you. You have the proof. You know he cheated. What do? Do you divorce him? Do you leave his ass? Do you get revenge? What do you do? We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to share some examples that I've seen on social media, as well as my own personal real life examples, and we're going to get some of Rakem's thoughts on this topic. Carl E. Stevens, aka Rakem Sekou, and I'm going to share all the links to everything that I mentioned in the discussion. And I'm going to ask you something, audience. Please give us 5 stars, give a 5-star rating, and follow. Make sure you follow, and also, stay on the lookout for the new episodes because I don't know when exactly I'm going to post them, but I know for sure there'll be at least one per month. So before we get into the topic, Rakem Sekou, Carl E. Stevens Jr., can you please introduce yourself to us?
Yes, my name is Carly Stevens Jr., spiritual name Rakem Sekou. I'm a metaphysician, a Tantra practitioner. I am the CEO and co-founder of the Mystery School at mysteryschool.live. Been a relationship coach for about 20 years, author of a number of books, and so love to support people in empowerment and relationships.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna just read you a screenshot that I saw recently on Threads, and I won't say the person's name for privacy, but I saw it and then I responded to her and it just, oh my God. Okay, so here's what was said. She says, I went 50-50 with a man, sometimes 80-20 when he was building his career. I'm sorry, but no, I'll never do that again. Call me immature, but that man cheated on me in the worst ways for years and lived a double life. All while I helped financially, 50-50, sometimes more, and cooked, cleaned, took care of my body, myself, my looks. I shopped for him. I never went through his phone. I gave him 100% trust. I let him be the man. I trusted him leading us, and he cheated on me for years with multiple women, by the way. So now, she then went on to basically talk about how she's going to make him pay, and he was a man of God. She thought he was a Christian, and for years he was doing this behind her back, and now she's the victim, and she can't believe he lied to her. And so I asked her, I said, well, what if he had come to you early on in the marriage and said, hey, I have something to share with you. I know that I, agreed to monogamy at the beginning of this marriage. I thought that that was the right thing to do. I believe that that was the right thing to do, but now I feel different. And I find that I'm attracted to another woman or several other women. And, what should we do going forward? Maybe should we, do you want to talk about the possibility of having an open marriage? So I was basically asking her, what would you do if he told you the truth? If he told you the truth, and she just couldn't even understand my question. She was just like, what? What are you talking about? We were married. What do you mean? Marriage is monogamy. Marriage is monogamy. So in her mind, even though she's saying he should have told me the truth, he should have told me the truth, God damn it. She can't even, and this is true for so many women, Rakem, not just her. This is just one example of millions. They say, why didn't he tell me the truth? But then when I asked them, okay, well, what if he had told you the truth? Then they're like, well, he shouldn't have even wanted to be with another woman because we're married and we agreed to monogamy. And I can't believe he did this to me. And I can't believe he didn't care about my feelings. And oh my God, I'm a victim. I'm a victim. I'm a victim. What are your thoughts on that, Rakim?
Well, how did she find out he was cheating if she didn't go through his phone?
I don't remember. I don't know. But she found it somehow, some way.
She just came across the information somewhere. She wasn't going through his
Somehow,
phone.
some way, she found out what this man was doing behind her back for
She didn't
years.
go through his computer or
Multiple.
emails, but she just had a divine revelation. Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, yeah, if you agree to be sexually exclusive,
Mhm.
then yeah, that's what you should do.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't agree with men or women um, as a first and only choice, just cheating on your spouse. I
Mhm.
don't have
Mhm.
any judgment about it because I understand why they do that. In this case, they don't have a kind of relationship where he can actually talk to her.
Mhm.
So and he can share how he feels. So they don't
Mhm.
have a real relationship. It's not like a real closeness. This is true for most people. Most people can't share how they're really feeling, what they're really going through. So there's a lot of things that they're thinking
Mhm.
that they just don't talk to their spouse about because they can't. And the reason why they can't in their mind is because they're going to be harshly judged, and the person's not going to be understanding and that kind of thing. So that's why he didn't go to her.
Mhm.
And again, this is common. Most people can't.
Yeah.
And again, women cheat just as much, if not more, than men. You know,
Mhm.
spouses, they can't go to each other for their truth and how they
Mhm.
actually feel because they don't have that kind of closeness. They don't have that kind of intimacy in their marriage and relationship.
Mhm.
And so they just have to take it upon themselves to get their needs met.
Yeah.
In terms of all the other things she was saying, like she paid for his 80/20 and all that kind of stuff, like that's irrelevant,
Well,
you
she's saying,
know.
like, I was perfect. I did all the things. I kept up my appearance. I was, I did all the things, and he still cheated on me.
Well, no, she wasn't perfect. I mean, she's telling you her side of the story. If we were to talk to him and find out, his experience with her, then we would find out all the imperfections. Again, the
Mhm.
fact that he couldn't talk to her about how he was feeling or that he wanted to do these things or had the urge to do these things indicates they didn't have a real relationship. They
Mhm.
didn't have a real closeness. They didn't have a real friendship. They didn't have a real intimacy. And
Mhm.
so without that, you don't have a relationship.
Mhm.
So her saying she's perfect, I mean, she's just saying, like, look, I checked all the boxes that the Disney romantic movies tell you to check.
Mhm.
And, therefore I deserve the fantasy of, faithfulness and fidelity and the fantasy marriage and that kind of thing. That's what she's saying. But life
Mhm.
doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
Human beings are not naturally monogamous. There's nothing about us that's monogamous. So we don't do it automatically. It takes great effort to do it. It takes dedication to do it. It also takes a lot of support. And it
Mhm.
also helps when you have a partner, a spouse who you can actually talk to for real about how you feel and what you're going through. Like you need those things in place to be successfully fidelitous to your partner. People act like it's supposed to be automatic, and it's
Mhm.
not. And
Yeah.
I know, for it's easier than for some than it does for others because it depends on where they are in their life. You know what I'm saying? Like it just depends. But no, it's very difficult for all of us.
Mhm. Mhm. So here's something else that this woman said, and this is something that not only did she say it, but a lot of influencers are saying the same thing. I've seen this so many times on Instagram, like this idea. So she says that a man that needs attention from multiple women is unhappy with himself, which means he will never respect you the way you deserve to be respected because he has zero respect for himself. Now, Rakim, I've seen influencers say that, men who are sleeping with multiple women um, have mommy issues. And that's why they're sleeping with multiple women. These are unhealthy men. And that's why they're doing these things. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel that's bullshit.
Mm.
Um, the issues that a person has, whether those are mommy issues or daddy issues, those can manifest in a lot of different ways. The
Mm.
way it usually manifests is in monogamy, where somebody tries to possess another person because they
Mhm.
want to feel a particular level of love and dedication and ownership of an individual so they can feel like they're worthy. So
Mm.
again, like people talk about getting into multiple relationships or whatever, or having multiple partners, but no, it starts with the first partner. So why are you seeking a partner to begin with? For many people, especially people who have these traumas and have these childhood issues, you're seeking a partner because you want to be acknowledged in a particular way. You want to be loved in a particular way. You want to feel safe and protected that maybe you didn't feel safe and protected like you wanted to be as a child. So you got to start with the first relationship. Like people want to expand, like, well, if you have all these partners or you're interested in all these people, then it must mean something. No, we start with monogamy first, exclusivity first. Why do you want this partner? And most people want partners for selfish reasons, which is why most relationships don't work. Not just most marriages, but most relationships. Most relationships fail because the people who enter those relationships are seeking them for selfish reasons. They're not really loving the person that they're with. They're not really trying to build something. They're not trying to be understanding. They don't have the ability to hold space for their partner. They don't want to grow emotionally with their partner. So when their partner does something that they don't like, they get offended, they feel rejected, and they end up ending the relationship. See, that's, my question is, well, if you end the relationship that quickly and you're not willing to work through things, you're not willing to try things, you're not willing to get support, then what were you really doing? Oh, what you were doing is something that was selfish. You want the fantasy. You want to be provided something. And that's where you start looking at the effects of childhood traumas. So a lot of times, again, these traumas manifest as somebody wanting to possess somebody for themselves. They want to own somebody for themselves, to make them feel like they're worthy of love because they didn't feel that way as a child. So that's where it starts. So no, it's not about multiple. Now, are there cases where, men or women are seeking multiple partners or multiple love interests, and that's how their trauma is acting out? Absolutely.
Okay.
In the same way trauma acts out where people don't date anybody. And you have all these people who are being, reclusive, I'm saying, and by themselves because their trauma won't allow them to go out into the world and actually create bonds and interact with other human beings and learn what love is about and learn what friendship is about and learn how to function in a union with another human being. The reason why there's so many people alone is because it's that a lot of times that's their trauma speaking. They failed once or twice, or they couldn't have what they wanted the way they wanted it, and now they're just going to withdraw from the world entirely. That's a trauma. Or sometimes, like I said, it's just because you be with one person only. You want to stay inside your silo, your bubble, and kind of have an ownership thing over this person. That could also be a trauma, not always, but that could also be a trauma speaking. And then it could be the multiple thing. So trauma goes beyond your relationship style. There's so many people who are in monogamous marriages that are suffering from major, major traumas. Most of the abuses happen inside of monogamy. Most of the lying happens inside of monogamy. Most of the sexual assaults happen inside of monogamy. Most of the cheating and all these things happen inside of monogamy. So there's a ton of trauma inside these monogamous marriages, which is why most of them are dysfunctional.
Wow. That was such a great answer. Um, Here's another one that I'm going to read to you from another woman. She said, 24 hours ago, I found out my husband cheated on me with an escort while intoxicated, yet it seemed very premeditated to me. My mama heart is shattered. My children are so young. I don't ever make rash decisions. We also have a 15-year-old daughter watching us navigate this. What would you do? My first ever vulnerable post, please be kind. So there's people going on threads saying, hey, I caught my spouse cheating. What do I do? They're literally asking for help on threads. And of course, most of the people on threads are saying divorce your spouse because they don't deserve you if they cheated on you. So I know that you and your first wife, Kenya, you're doing this divorce proof program, which is super powerful. If a couple comes to you and let's say the woman says, I just caught my husband cheating, and the conventional thing to do is divorce him because he cheated. He lied to me for years. What would you say to that woman or that couple?
Yeah, I would say come in and get support.
Mhm.
Let's explore why you all have not built solid intimacy in your marriage where you can't talk to each other about how you feel and what your needs are. And this is important to do because we have to learn to do these things. So if, for example, they don't come and talk to us and they don't figure out how to build intimacy inside their marriage, right? Then when she goes to her, let's say she divorces her husband, she goes to her next marriage, she's
Mhm.
still not going to have the skill to know how to create intimacy in her marriage, her new marriage, a new relationship. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you need to learn to be a human being. You need to learn to relate to a human being. Human beings, we're complex.
Yeah.
There's so much to who we are and how we think and our emotional states, and like you were mentioning earlier, our traumas and all these things. Like if you want to relate to a person, you're going to have to learn how to relate and learn how to hold space and learn how to be empathetic and learn what drives us as men and women, and learn communication protocols, and learn how to actually support your partner. Like most people don't know how to do that. Again, the issue with the whole Disney and the romance, and kind of like the issue with monogamous culture, is it creates this fantasy of what a relationship is. That fantasy is not real.
Mhm.
Relationships are not like this fairy tale thing where you come together and live happily ever after. No, it's a very complex process. There's a lot of ebbs and flows to it. And
Mhm.
my recommendation to people going through this stuff is like, let's talk about what relationships are and the things that you are going through, how you attracted this into your life, what you can do
Mhm.
to ensure you don't attract it going forward, whether it's in a new relationship or with your current partner. And let's work through some of these things. Let's gain some education. Relationships are so powerful, marriage is so powerful. It's worth having consistent support. And the
Mhm.
difference between Kenya and I, in terms of how we coach and what our divorce proof program teaches versus like a conventional therapist, is that a lot of conventional therapists, again, are focused on this standard fantasy narrative of relationships as well. And so
Mhm.
they're gonna be more like, well, monogamy is the natural thing.
Mhm.
And so they're
Mhm.
gonna advise based on that. And they're
Yeah.
gonna have the habit of condemning one party or the other, which is why a lot
Yeah.
of men don't want to go to therapy, especially with their
Absolutely.
wives, because they
Mhm.
feel it's going to be one sided and that kind of stuff. And I've heard a ton of horror stories. A lot of
Mhm.
couples who've come to us and said, look, we've been to therapy, multiple therapists,
Yeah.
and I just feel like I'm getting, beat on, or, the therapist has two sides. Like they'll say one thing to me, but something separate to my wife in their own session. So men
Mhm.
don't trust therapists.
Ooh.
And there's a reason why. It's because
Ooh.
they're on this conventional monogamous culture, fantasy culture of relationships, and they're not really understanding that human beings are way more dynamic than that.
Mm. Mm. I love that you said that because I'm going to mention the next example, which is she's a country music star, Jana Kramer, and she was married to her husband, Mike Caussin, who was a former NFL player. They were married for 6 years, and she was on the Red Table Talk with Jada and what's his name's ex-wife, Cherie, I forget, Will Smith's ex-wife. And so they were talking to Jana Kramer, and she was telling them how, during the entire 6 years of her marriage, he cheated on her with like over 13 women that she knows of. And so what had happened is she confronted him multiple times, and every time he would say, I'm really going to change, I'm going to try. They had a podcast together, I think they even wrote a book together, and he just kept saying publicly, like, I'm working on it, I'm working on it, I'm doing better, I'm gonna do monogamy. And he kept failing. He failed and failed and failed until she just divorced him, and they have two children, by the way. And so one of the things was that when she was on the Red Table Talk, she got to, play the whole victim thing. I can't, how could he do this to me? Like, I gave him so many chances and he kept cheating. And then Cherie, she asked her, you must have been really like angry. And she was like, yeah. And then she started talking about how she smashed his thing. She broke all his Xbox stuff. She wrote all over his tuxedo. Like she totally like just went violent, and they were all laughing and they were like, like, that's totally understandable. It's totally understandable for a woman who's been cheated on to vandalize their exes or their husband's property. Like that's justifiable. That's how it felt when I was watching Red Table Talk, and that's how it's felt for me when I've seen even movies like this, Waiting to Exhale, where Angela Bassett, burns his house, to not his house, his car. She burned his whole car because she found out her husband cheated on her. And we celebrate this and we think that it's right and it's justified because we see the woman as being victimized by the man who did not tell her the truth. Or who maybe he got caught and then he tried to change, but he keeps failing to change because something's wrong with him. Something's wrong with him. So this woman tried and tried and tried to convert her husband to monogamy, and it repeatedly failed. And so she presents herself as she's the victim here. She's the victim. And society applauds that. So when you see that and you're saying, well, you would talk to couples about let's talk about it and let's explore how you both created this. That's how do you get a woman to even do that when so many women believe that they have been victimized by their cheating husband?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a path that, women who want to be truly empowered are going to take. Women who want to build a real relationship and marriage are going to take. So, the reality is at this point in time, most people aren't going to take that path. They're going to want to play the victim. They're going to want to justify their toxic behavior. And again, what that means for them is that they're never going to have relationships that have actual trust, actual love in them. So just, by that behavior, you can understand, like, that's not the first time or the first inkling of that energy from her towards him. You understand? So that if women were confused about why a lot of men don't trust them or don't feel they can talk to them about how they feel, it's because they know that right behind that conversation is potentially this kind of behavior. And again, not about like burning tuxedos or whatever, but some passive aggressive stuff, withholding sex, the cold shoulder, like all these passive aggressive things that we see being done in relationships. That again, when women do these things, they never really get called out. Women's abuse on men, which tends to be more psychological and emotional, never gets called out. It's not recognized as abuse. And so most men just like, well, I just can't trust her. You see what I'm saying? So they don't, and they go about trying to figure things out on their own. Now, in terms of her husband, the first thing I'll say out the gate is, if you're married to an NFL player, that's a special situation. Somebody who's taken on head trauma probably since middle school, you know what I'm saying, all the way through high school, all the way through college and into adulthood and the pros, those people need special consideration and special care. Not that they're all suffering from CTE per se or whatever, but you can't look at his behavior in a vacuum. Somebody who's experiencing consistent head trauma is going to need support, period. Not just with their marriage, but in life, period. And it's like, it's really kind of weird. It's like the military, where people go off and they fight in wars and they're doing all this military stuff. Then they're supposed to come home when they're released and just integrate into society. It doesn't work that way. You know what I'm saying? You need support. Same thing with NFL players. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you don't just integrate back into your marriage, integrate into society after you've experienced that kind of, head trauma with the potential of multiple concussions, many of them not even diagnosed. You see what I'm saying? So that's a different situation. I mean, they should have consistent care and support, period, because of his profession. Now, let's say that his cheating is not related to any of the head trauma he's experienced over the years. That does sound a bit like he needs support working through. He's trying. Like what you're telling me and what you're expressing to me sounds like a man who's trying, or a man who wants to do the right thing. Because most men just don't say anything and they go out and do their stuff on the side, right?
Yeah.
So if he's saying he wants to do better, then we should take him at his word that he wants to do better, but that he can't. Now, what does that sound like that he's going through? It sounds like the same thing that most of us have gone through, whether it's around saving money or sticking to our diet or sticking to an exercise regimen, you see what I'm saying? Or sticking to, doing our entrepreneurial business. Most of us end up falling short in those areas. Most of us are not hitting our health goals. We're not hitting our fitness goals. We're not hitting our savings goals. We're not
Mm,
hitting our goals in life. So what he's going through is not different than what we've all experienced. This is what I'm trying to tell people. Monogamy is not natural. Like it's the same thing as like trying to lose weight or trying to stay in shape and do that consistently for the rest of your life. We need support. You see what I'm saying? So he's somebody I would recommend support for to help him deal with, hey, why are you having a hard time keeping your word? Is there something else going on that we need to take a look at that you that we might be able to address? Or maybe are you the kind of person that kind of over promises? Like
mm,
you can't do this, but you're over promising to kind of, put your wife at ease. And where else are
mm,
you doing this in your life? Are you doing this in football? Are you doing this in professional areas or whatever? So there's a lot to be looked at in that situation. Again, the issue that they're having, and which most couples has, they don't have the right support. And the
mm,
people who are consulting with them, like going to Red Table Talk and talking to Jada, whose life is a complete and total mess, or anybody else, like that's the wrong thing to do. You're not getting any support there. You're just throwing gasoline on the fire.
mm,
You got to find the right support, and unfortunately, it's few and far between where you can find it.
mm. Wow. And it can also be that he's, as you said, he's non-monogamous, but he hasn't come to terms with that within himself, where he can just say to himself, you know what, I really enjoy being with multiple women.
Well, yeah, if he's non-monogamous, that's fine. So the question is, well, why do you lie about it? Why are you having a hard time standing inside of your truth as a man?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so that's when, you would talk to me and some of the brotherhood, and we would figure out why you're having a hard time being inside your masculine energy. Being inside your masculine energy means you're able to walk in integrity. You're able to
Mhm.
walk inside your accountability. You're able to
Mhm.
be courageous. So even though your wife is going to be abusive to you, when you
Mhm.
express your truth, you're still going to express the truth because that's what it is. And so
Mhm.
learning to step into that as a man is something that we want to work with somebody like that. Like if he wants to be non-monogamous, but he can't stand inside of that truth or he can't speak that truth, that's something to work through. We can help him develop some masculine energy so he can learn to walk his truth.
Mhm. Rakim, why do you think that so many men? I mean, I know you said women can be verbally abusive and even violent when they don't like the truth, when they don't like hearing the truth. But regardless of that, why do so many men really struggle with telling their girlfriend, telling their wife, I am attracted to multiple women. I like to have sex with multiple women. Why is that so hard?
Well, the same reason why women don't tell their husbands the truth, you know? And again, I know this thing seems like a one-sided thing where it's just the men cheating, but again, women cheat just as much, if not more, than men.
Mm,
Women desire multiple partners, if not, just as much as men desire multiple partners. And again, this is who we are as human beings. And I'm
mm,
not saying that desire is the same all the time or throughout the marriage, but that's just the fact of the matter. Okay.
mhm,
So in terms of why men have a hard time, I feel like there's a there's a misnomer that somehow men are superior to women
mm,
or men are stronger than women or that the masculine is more powerful than the feminine, and that's not true. The
mm,
masculine is equal to the feminine, not the same, but it's equal, right?
mhm,
Quantitatively it's equal. And so what it is in the same way, women sometimes fear men,
mhm,
like men's possible physical violence or whatever, or verbal violence. Men fear women the exact same way.
mhm,
Like many men are terrified of a woman's wrath,
mm.
and they don't want to deal with it. It's too stressful. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's too debilitating.
Mhm,
It's something that, causes major emotional and psychological damage to men. So what a lot of men choose to do is just not say anything at all.
yeah.
They feel, look, if I just don't rock the boat, don't make her angry, don't make her upset, don't, you know what I'm saying? Then
Mm,
everything will stay relatively okay at home. So a lot of
mhm,
men choose to go that route instead of talking to their wives. And again, most women are not really receptive to to hearing the truth about their husbands. They're not getting married because they love this man in many cases. In
Hmm.
many cases, they're getting married because there's an advantageous thing for them, or they just want to be married, or they want the ceremony, or whatever it is. But it's not like they have this deep love and care for the man. Sometimes that's the case, but oftentimes it's not the case. And again, you can tell the difference because when you have a deep love and care for a person, and the person, they can feel that, and they're willing to and desirous to share with you, and they want your support. But as human beings, we have a hard time with the concept of love, and it's not just like between men and women, etc. Like, there are a lot of children who don't feel safe with their mother or father,
Yeah.
to the point where
Yeah.
they can't tell them the truth about how they really feel, or what's going on with them at school, or what's going on with their sexuality, or the fact they're getting bullied or beat up. Like, they don't feel comfortable coming to their parents because they don't feel a true love and care for them. Like, the parents are just trying to feed them and kind of get them through the system, and they don't want too much trouble or too many ways because they got enough on their plate as it is with the work and everything else they got going on, or dealing with their own relationship issues. They're not looking for too much drama from the children. The children can feel that,
Yeah.
and therefore these children don't talk to their parents about what's really going on. And so it's more of a societal thing,
Mm.
um, where we don't know how to love and how to care for each other. We don't know how to hold space for each other, have compassion, and it's ruining our marriages, it's ruining our relationships. So we got to learn to fix that.
I really love what you said about men fearing women because that's not something we normally think of in society, but it's so real because like as I've told you many times before, when I used to do sex work and I would ask many of my clients, why won't you tell your wife um, that you're seeing sex workers, and it was always pretty much the same answer. If I tell her, she'll divorce me and she'll ruin my reputation and she'll assassinate my character. And so I'm not going to tell her.
Yep.
And yeah, so these men are afraid of the consequences that may come with speaking their truth to their wife.
Yeah. And again, it's not just men who are afraid, women are afraid too. Like,
Mhm.
most women, I was talking to one of my clients a few months ago, and she's
Mhm.
very social. She's got a lot of friends. She's been married for 20 years or so. And she
Yeah.
said, Rakim, I don't know any woman in a marriage who's not cheating on her husband.
Wow.
I don't know any. Um, so again, it's also these women don't feel comfortable talking to their husbands
Mhm.
about how they really feel, what they really want. I mean,
Mhm.
people right now are in denial about what human relationships actually are. And
Yeah.
we're trying to force ourselves to fit into this box. It's kind of like how, humans, like with Christianity, they'll claim Christianity and religion, but they're really functioning way outside of the moral boundaries and ethical boundaries of the religion, but they're acting like they're inside of it. And they're scared to show their real selves to certain people, and et cetera, et cetera. People are the same way inside relationships. They don't feel comfortable expressing how they really feel. They're trying to stroke each other's egos. They're fearful, like you said, of repercussions. And
Yeah.
that's a big thing that we got to work through in human relationships. We got to do better. Like, we're more intelligent than that as human beings. We can do better than that, but it does take effort. Unfortunately, we were born into a culture where, lying and deception and relating with people based on superficial things is the norm.
Hmm. Is it possible for a woman who's been cheated on, or even a man, either gender, and they feel victimized, they feel betrayed, deeply betrayed by their spouse? Is it possible, or how is it possible for that woman to let go of the hurt of feeling betrayed and victimized and move beyond that to be able to hear her spouse's side of the story?
Well, yeah, but her hurt and victimization is
Mhm.
not based on the spouse cheating.
Mm.
So the spouse cheating is the trigger.
Okay.
She's already hurt from
Mm.
childhood and from something earlier in her life. This is not the first time she's been hurt or victimized or felt the way she's felt or felt betrayed or felt lied to. She's felt this
Mm.
before. in previous relationships. There's examples in her childhood where she's felt this way. So it's really a matter of her, learning to resolve the core issue. Because look, I could line up 1,000 women, all of them married, and all of their husbands cheated on them, and all of them found out. And I can ask those women to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your level of hurt by the fact that your husband did this to you? And they're not all going to say 10. They're not all going to say 9. They're not all going to say 8. Like, there's going to be some 1s and 2s. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be some 0s. There's going to be some 5s. So the question is, well, why are some women at a 10 and a 9 and an 8, while other women in the same exact scenario are at a 1 or a 2 or a 0 or a 3? And the answer is, it depends on your existing level of trauma. Because your trauma is what's manifested you being in this position in the first place, where you're getting cheated on. Because your trauma wants to express itself. So the reason why you feel hurt, the reason why you feel victimized, is because you want to feel hurt. You want to feel victimized. Why do you want to feel hurt and victimized? Because it's a dopamine rush. It's a hormonal rush. You're addicted to that adrenaline. You're addicted to the highs and the lows. So, people need to learn to work through their core issues so they can get back to living a normal life and not feeling like their life is over when another human being makes a choice. It doesn't, if you think about it logically and rationally, I should not ever be completely and totally destroyed when somebody else makes a choice in their life. Does that make sense? Even when I'm connected to them, it shouldn't be devastating. It can be disappointing. It can be surprising. You see what I'm saying? It could be a lot of things, but I shouldn't be destroyed. I shouldn't be, in this complete victim mode. I shouldn't have this thing where I have this anger and want to, seek revenge and retribution on this person. It shouldn't be like that. Make sense?
That's so real. I'm going to share my own personal example of that, because what you're saying does make sense. It's that deep hurt didn't start with your husband or your wife or boyfriend or girlfriend. It goes beyond that to childhood trauma, even ancestral trauma. And I know that that's real because, when I was like with one of my first boyfriends, when I found out that he had cheated, because he left me in his apartment, and I went through his dresser and I found evidence of his other girlfriend, and I found out that she was pregnant by him, and he never told me anything about it. He didn't tell me anything about her, period. And I went into this like mega rage, and I vandalized his whole entire apartment, literally. And I'm lucky I didn't get charged by him, because I could have been. But I remember, like, as I was feeling that rage, like, I remember feeling like, this isn't just me. This is my mother. This is my grandmother. This is the collective of women that are angry at men for cheating. Like, this is not just Lesley. Like, I was so angry. Like, I knew this isn't just me. This isn't just the surface. Oh, he cheated. This is like deeper than that. This is a recreation, a subconscious creation of pain that is unresolved. And so I could see it within my own life, the times when I felt deeply humiliated by a man, or betrayed by a man, or lied to by a man, and I went into rage or depression. It wasn't really because of that man. It was because of unresolved trauma. That's why it was so painful. That's why I kept creating those scenarios, so that I could relive that pain, relive that dopamine hit. So hopefully, ideally, I can transmute it, I can heal it. But a lot of times people, they don't heal it. They just keep on recreating it again and again and again and again. Your thoughts?
I agree 100%. Because, like, for example, your boyfriend in that scenario, there's a lot of women who wouldn't date him to begin with, because they would see the red flags, they would see kind of how he moves, they would see his lack of integrity, and they would pick up on that, even before finding out he had a girlfriend or that he was duplicitous in that way.
Mhm.
And that's because their trauma is different. Like they're
Yeah.
not, they don't, they don't have that hurt or pain that they want to see come out in that way by
Mhm.
discovering he was cheating or he was duplicitous with them. You see what I'm saying? Like their trauma is different. So
Mhm.
they immediately see like, this is not somebody I want to deal with, or
Yeah.
not a situation I want to be in. And so, but I agree with you 100%. You know, it's like when you have rage, and
Yeah.
I've experienced this, and maybe other people have too. And in the middle of that rage and that tirade, you realize like this is somebody else. Like this is a part of me. Like I'm actually watching myself go in the go through this rage and go
Mhm.
through this tirade. Like it's like I'm looking at myself from the outside in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. It's generational trauma. It's
Mhm.
what I've seen my mother and father go through, and me internalizing all that, and all that coming out of me projecting that and focusing that on this particular person because they triggered that rage. They triggered that generational trauma. So I 100% agree with you on that.
Mhm. Oh, this is such a deep topic. Rakem, why should people look at enrolling in your divorce proof program?
That's a great question. I feel like our divorce proof program is a masterful program to get couples to become more intimate and
Mm.
closer and better friends. And we do that through helping them communicate with each other. We've got an amazing protocol called Up Level Communications. We've got a
Mhm.
book that Kenya and I wrote about it, that we talk to the couples and we go through them, go through the protocol with them and really help them to speak and talk and develop a closeness. But we also just support them in general with
Mhm.
understanding themselves and understanding their relationships and understanding their levels of dominance and levels of submissiveness and their levels of masculinity and femininity, and just talking about these things
Mhm.
and teaching couples how to manifest together and create together. And Lesley, one of the issues with couples is that they're not able to really create and manifest things together.
Mhm.
And that also creates dissension inside the relationship. It's
Mhm.
not just about like, oh, we're just here and we're getting along. Like, you know, people want to create together and manifest together and do some great things together. And
Yeah.
when that doesn't happen, that can cause a lot of dissension inside the relationship. So one of the things we teach couples to do is how to create. How do you make decisions together as a unit? How do you talk to each other in such a way that you can manifest greatness and become a power couple and those types of things? So really powerful program. You can find more information about it at Progressive Love Academy.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and so we're excited to teach it.
You mentioned creating together and manifesting together. I think you refer to that as the battery. I've heard
Correct.
you talk about the battery, and if the battery is low or it's dead, then that affects the quality of the relationship between the man and the woman. And so, I specialize in talking to women, dark feminine women who are in love with a dark masculine man. And I coach them one-on-one, but we also coach them together, you and I, because I also offer two-on-one coaching. And so, for a lot of these dark feminine, dark masculine pairings, they are not manifesting together. It's just craziness and chaos and constant breakups, and like the battery's not working. They're not manifesting anything positive together. And so you know, I think you and I, we're beginning to do that now. We're doing this podcast together, we're coaching together, we're like we have all these plans, like our battery, I feel, is really starting to work in a powerful way. What do you have to say about that, Rakim?
Yeah, I think it's a process. I think it's learning what the relationship is and what it needs to be, and then from there learning how to create and manifest inside of it. So yeah, I think we've done better, as you know, and you probably talk about this a lot to your followers. Your perception of me and our relationship was skewed
Mhm.
in the beginning, and you struggle with comparing yourself to my other partners and all these types of things. And you know, there's just nothing that can be done in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, your and my relationship and connection is completely and totally unique and individual and apart from anything else that I have with anyone else or you have with anybody else. And it has to be looked at from that standpoint. And once you're willing to look at it from that standpoint, now you have the ability to possibly create and to manifest things as a unit.
Mhm. And just to touch on that, I've had to learn how to embody more of the dark feminine, what you call the conservationist, the witch, the crone, because in being self-focused on myself and cultivating the six sorceress pillars, which is what I help my clients to do, and really like really embody, not just saying, oh yeah, I love myself and self-care, like not just giving it lip service, but actually doing the things, the actions consistently, repetitively, diligently, disciplining myself, really, really, really honoring myself first and foremost before anyone else. In so doing, I am now much better able to harmonize with you and get shit done with you because I'm embodying the correct counterpart to the dark masculine. So now our battery, as you call it, can actually work.
Correct.
How do you define a battery? In case for people who don't know what you mean by battery, how do you define that?
Battery is a system that Kenya and I developed that explains how two people in a union and relationship can can make decisions together.
Mhm,
And we break down these decisions into 9 steps.
mhm,
Um, you know, one of these steps are shared, and then the other 8 are divided.
mhm,
And based on those steps, you'll find that you're able to create a vortex and manifest things together as a unit much more quickly and much more powerfully.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it's a decision making and manifestation tool for couples.
And last question, because you do teach about 4 pairings or 4 masculine, feminine polarities within your mystery school. So let's just specifically talk about the dark feminine, dark masculine, or what you call the womb choice. In that particular battery, in that particular battery of the 4 types of batteries, what is that battery supposed to be producing or ideally should be producing?
Yeah, what that battery is really for is, you know, it's to support, um, for example, for the women, support them in being able to unlock stored energy
Mhm,
so that they can, you know, channel that stored energy into their visualizations and into their desires to
mhm,
manifest on their own. The crone energy or the conservations, you know, she's able to manifest whatever she puts her mind to,
mhm,
but she needs energy to do that. And the womb choice relationship, the dark masculine, dark feminine relationship, helps her to tap into that energy and helps her unlock it
mhm,
through, you know, very like we said, a certain level of sex and animalistic sex and
mhm,
you know, a certain level of ritualistic sex, etc. So she's able to tap into that and manifest.
mhm,
For the man, it supports him in, you know, being able to tap more into his masculine and go out in the world and achieve and you know, push through obstacles and challenges a lot easier. So it's
mhm.
really that's really like an individualistic thing that helps each of these individuals to be more powerful and show up more powerfully in the world.
Mm, mm, mm. Amazing. Yeah, I feel that you're, I mean, the soldier, the warrior, the dark masculine, one of his main qualities is courage. And that was the thing that attracted me to you in the first place was your courage because when I first saw you on YouTube, you were saying things that I was not hearing any other man or any other black man in America or North America saying. Like you were literally saying, you are okay with your wife having sex with another man or multiple men. And like all of the men that were around me at that time, all of the black men that were around me at that time, they were not trying to hear that bullshit. They believed in one man, multiple women, or one man cheating on his wife and never telling her the truth, but a man saying, hey, I'm in an open marriage and I have sex with other women and my wife has sex with other men. Like you were the first African American man that I had ever heard say that in public. And to me, that represented courage. And it made me irresistibly attracted to you as a dark masculine man. Now I had to work through a whole bunch of other shit that made it difficult for me to harmonize with you. But initially, I was very attracted to your courage, to your willingness to speak the truth no matter what. That was extremely attractive to me. I
Yeah,
don't know
and
what my
that
question is,
makes
but I
sense.
needed to say that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, and I think you've become even more courageous over the years, even as you and I work together, even the way that you express things, you're more like blunt to the point, like no sugarcoating and like, so many women want that from men. Like, just fucking say what it is. Just get to the fucking point. Just speak the fucking truth. Don't sugarcoat. Don't try to, oh, I don't want to hurt your feelings. No, just say what it is. And if the men would just say what it is, they would have more testosterone. They would be more powerful. They would accomplish more. But all these men are just like fucking cowards. Sorry, that's my vent. I had to get that out. But I'm tired of all these cowardice, fearful men. Like, stop being afraid.
Well,
Rock MCQ.
this goes into the kind of the epidemic we have
Mhm.
of men who are not really growing up with role models and really weren't taught a certain level of masculinity, weren't taught to stand inside their truth. And that's why we see these like quote unquote gender wars today, and these
Mhm.
men like being very angry at women and this kind of stuff. It's just this is a sign of men needing to develop their masculinity. um but that could be another topic
Yeah,
we
yeah.
handle another podcast, but that's
Yeah.
what you see happening out here in the world right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So thank you for being that representation for men to follow Rakem Sekou, because it's very hard for men to be courageous. I totally understand their fear, but I'm grateful that there are men that are like you who are showing what's possible. That you can live in your truth, that you can, as your wife says, you can have your freedom and you can also have commitment at the same time. They're not contradictory. You can have both. And so I'm grateful that you represent that. And I'm grateful that you're in my life. And I'm grateful that you're doing these podcasts with me. And before we close out, how can people find you and follow you and pay you?
Yeah, they can go to mysteryschool.live. That's where the school is. I have a yearly membership, $39 for the year, where people can join and you know ha- have access to some information and some libraries and stuff like that, and some live lectures. But people can also contact me, directly. Rakemseku@gmail is my email. So if you're interested in coaching or interested in doing a one-on-one, just hit me up.
Awesome. And ladies, you can also get one-on-one coaching with me anytime. You can also get two-on-one coaching with Rakem Sekou and I at any time. It's all available on my website. Thank you once again, Rakem, and we'll talk to you soon. Ciao.